Jacques Tati was a French filmmaker. Throughout his long career, he worked as a comic actor, writer, and director. In a poll conducted by Entertainment Weekly of the greatest movie directors, Tati was voted the 46th greatest of all time. With only 6 feature-length films to his credit as director, he directed fewer films than any other director on this list of 50. Family origins: Jacques Tati was born French with Russian, Dutch and Italian ancestry. His father, Georges Emmanuel Tatischeff, born in 1875 in Paris, was the son of Dmitry Tatischeff, general of the Imperial Russian Army and military attaché copyright to the Russian Embassy in Paris. The Tatischeffs were a Russian noble family of patrilineal Rurikid descent. While stationed in Paris, Dmitry Tatischeff married a French woman, Rosanna Thallier-Lincourt. Under suspicious circumstances, Dmitry Tatischeff died from injuries sustained in a horse-riding accident shortly after the birth of Georges Emmanuel. As a child, Georges Emmanuel experienced turbulent times, such as being forcibly removed from France and taken to Russia to live. In 1883 his mother brought him back to France, where they settled on the estate of Le Pecq, near Saint-Germain-en-Laye on the outskirts of Paris. In 1903, Georges Emmanuel Tatischeff married the Dutch-Italian Marcel Claire van Hoof. Together they had 2 children, Nathalie and Jacques. Claire's Dutch father, a friend of Van Gogh, whose clients included Toulouse-Lautrec, was the owner of a prestigious picture framing company near the Place Vendôme in Paris, and he brought Georges Emmanuel into the family business. Subsequently, Georges Emmanuel became the director of the company Cardès van Hoof, and the Tatischeff family enjoyed a relatively high standard of living. Childhood and youth: Jacques Tatischeff appears to have been an indifferent student, yet excelled in the sports of tennis and horseback riding. He left school in 1923 at the age of 16 to take up an apprenticeship in the family business, where he was trained as a picture framer by his grandfather. Between 1927 and 1928 he completed his military national service at Saint-Germain-en-Laye with the cavalry's 16th Regiment of Dragoons. Upon graduating the military he took on an internship in London, where he was first introduced to the sport of rugby. Returning to Paris, he joined the semi-professional rugby team Racing Club de France, whose captain was Alfred Sauvy and whose supporters included Tristan Bernard. It was at the Racing Club de France that Jacques Tatischeff first discovered his comic talents, entertaining his teammates during intervals with hilarious impersonations of their sporting endeavors. He also first met Jacques Broido, and they would become lifelong friends. Between 1931 and 1932 the global economic crisis reached France. At the same time he left both the Racing Club de France and, to his family's disapproval, his apprenticeship at Cardès van Hoof. Giving up a relatively comfortable middle-class lifestyle for one of a struggling performing artist during this difficult economic time, he developed a collection of highly physical mimes that would become his impressions sportives. Each year from 1931 to 1934 he would participate in an amateur show organized by Alfred Sauvy. Entertainment debut: although he had likely played music hall engagements before, his act was first mentioned in 1935. When he performed at the gala for the newspaper Le Journal to celebrate the French victory in the competition to set the transatlantic crossing record from Normandy. Among the honorable spectators was the influential writer Colette. Tati's act also caught the attention of Max Schber, who offered him an engagement at the Theatre Michel, where he quickly became the star act. After his success there, Tati tried to make it in London, playing a short season at the Finsbury Park Empire in March 1936. Upon his return to Paris in the same year, he was immediately hired as top billing at the ABC Theatre Centre alongside the singer Marie Dubas, where he would work uninterrupted until the outbreak of the Second World War. It was for Tati's performances of his now finely tuned impressions sportives at the ABC that the previously impressed Colette wrote, "From now on no celebration, no artistic or acrobatic spectacle can do without this amazing performer, who has invented something quite his own. His act is partly ballet and partly sport, partly satire and partly charade. He has devised a way of being both the player, the ball and the tennis racket, of being simultaneously the football and the goalkeeper, the boxer and the opponent, the bicycle and the cyclist. Without any props, he conjures up his accessories and his partners. He has suggestive powers of all great artists. How gratifying it was to see the audience's warm reaction. Tati's success says a lot about the sophistication of the allegedly uncouth public, about its taste for novelty and its appreciation of style. Jacques Tati, the horse and rider conjured, will show all of Paris the living image of that legendary creature, the centaur. During the 1930s he also performed at the Scala in Berlin between 1937 and 1938, and began to experiment with film acting in the following shorts: 1932 An Oscar, Championed, a tennis directed by Jack Forrester, written by and starring Jacques Tati. 1934 On Demand, Une Brute, directed by Charles Barrois, with Jacques Tati as, Enrico Spracani as Le Clownroom. 1935 A Guy Dimanche, directed by Jacques Bear, wrote and starring Jacques Tati and Enrico Spracani. And, 1936 A Soyun Tum Gauche, directed by Rena Copyright Clack Copyright Ment, starring Jacques Tati, Jacques Broido, Max Martel. World War II. In September 1939 Tati was conscripted back into his 16th Regiment of Dragoons, which was then incorporated into the 3rd Division Léger de Cavalerie. He saw action in the Battle of the Meuse, in May 1940, when the German army marched through the Ardennes into northern France. The 3rd DLC retreated from Meuse to Mussadan in the Dordogne, where the division was demobilized after the armistice was declared on the 22nd of June, 1940. Returning to Paris, Tati resumed his civilian profession as a cabaret performer, finding employment at La Copyright on Voltaire's Lido de Paris, where he performed his sporting impressions from 1940-42. At the Lido de Paris he met and fell in love with the young Austrian Czech dancer Herta, who had fled Vienna with her sister Molly at the time of the Anschluss. In the summer of 1942 Herta gave birth to their daughter, Helga Marie Janiel. Due to pressure from his sister Nathalie, Tati refused to recognize the child and was forced by Voltaire to depart from the Lido at the end of the 1942 season. In 1943, after a short engagement at the ABC, where a Permil Piaf was headlining, Tati left Paris under a cloud, with his friend Henri Marquet, and they settled in the village of Saint-Czar copyright Varis-sur-Indre. While residing there they completed the script for La Permil Col des Facteurs that would later provide material for his first feature, Jeu de Fatille. Herta would remain in Paris throughout the war, where she would make acquaintance with the physician Jacques Valle when he was called upon to treat her sister Molly for the then incurable tuberculosis. Through Valle, second in command of the juggler network of the SOEF section networks, both sisters were recruited into the French resistance. In 1944, Tati returned to Paris and, after a brief courtship, married Micheline Winter. Considered as a possible substitute for Jean-Louis Barrault in Les Enfants du Paradis, he played the ghost in Sylvie and the Ghost and also appeared as the devil in the same film. Here he met Fred Arain, studio director of St. Maurice in the Victorine in Nice. Jacques Tati, director. In early 1946 Jacques Tati and Fred Arain founded the production company KD Films, which would produce Tati's first 3 films. With the exception of his first and last films, Tati played the gauche and socially inept lead character, Monsieur Hulot. With his trademark raincoat, umbrella and pipe, Hulot is among the most memorable comic characters in cinema. Several themes recur in Tati's work, most notably in Monday Uncle, Playtime and Pecq. They include Western society's obsession with material goods, particularly American-style consumerism, the pressure cooker environment of modern society, the superficiality of relationships among France's various social classes, and the cold and often impractical nature of space-age technology and design. On October 23, 1946 Tati fathered his second child, Sophie Catherine Tatischeff. La Permil Col des Facteurs, Rena Copyright Clack Copyright Ment was first approached to direct La Permil Col des Facteurs, but as he was preoccupied directing La Bataille du Rail, directing duties fell to Tati, who would also star in this short comedy of rural life. Encouragingly, La Permil Col des Facteurs was enthusiastically well received upon release, winning the Max Linder Prize for Film Comedy in 1947. Jeu de Fatille, Tati's first major feature, Jour de Fatigue, tells the story of an inept rural village postman who interrupts his duties to inspect the traveling fair that has come to town. Influenced by Too Much Wine and a documentary on the rapidity of the American Postal Service, he goes to hilarious lengths to speed his mail deliveries aboard his bicycle. Tati filmed it in 1947 in the village of Saint-Czar, copyright Varis Sorinda, where he had found refuge during the war. Due to the reluctance of French distributors, Jour de Fatigue was first successfully released in London in March 1949 before obtaining a French release on July 4, 1949, where it became a great public success, receiving the 1950 Le Grand Prix du Ciné copyright Marfrina Section A's. The film was intended to be the first French feature film shot in color. Tati simultaneously shot the film in black and white as an insurance policy. The newly developed Thompson color system proved impractical, as it could not deliver color prints. Jour de Fatigue was therefore released only in black and white. Unlike his later films, it has many scenes with dialogue, and offers a droll, affectionate view of life in rural France. The color version was restored by his younger daughter, film editor and director Sophie Tatischeff, and released in 1995. The film won a prize at the Venice Film Festival. 1949 was also the year of the birth of Tati's son, Pierre François Tatischeff, alias Pierre Tati. Both Pierre and Sophie would go on to work in the French film industry in various capacities, beginning in the early 1970s. Notably, they both worked on Jean-Pierre Melville's last film, Un Flic. Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, Tati's second film, Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, was released in 1953. Les Vacances introduced the character of Mr. Hulot and follows his adventures in France during the mandatory August vacation at a beach resort, lampooning several hidebound elements of French political and social classes. It was shot almost entirely in the tiny West Coast seaside village of Saint-Marc-sur-Mer in the Loire-Atlantique region. The hotel in which Mr. Hulot stays is still there, and a statue memorializing the director has been erected on the beach. Tati had fallen in love with the coast while staying in nearby Port Charlotte with his friends, Mr. and Mrs. Lemoine, before the war, and resolved to return one day to make a film there. The film was widely praised by critics, and earned Tati an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay, which was shared with Henri Marquet. Production of the movie would also see the reintroduction of Jacques Lagrange into Tati's life, beginning a lifelong working partnership with the painter, who would become his set designer. Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot remains one of the best-loved French films of that period. The film's comic influence has extended well beyond France and can be found as recently as 2007 in the Rowan Atkinson comic vehicle Mr. Bean's Holiday. Andrew copyright Barzine, founder of the influential journal Cahiers du Ciné copyright Ma, wrote in his 1957 essay, 15 Years of French Cinema, that Tati could easily have made lots of money with sequels featuring his comic character of the little rural mailman. He chose instead to wait for 4 years, and, after much reflection, he revised his formula completely. The result this time was an extraordinary masterpiece about which one can say, I think, that it is the most radical innovation in comic cinema since the Marx Brothers. I am referring, of course, to Les Vacances de M. Hulot. Various problems would delay the release of Tati's follow-up to his international hit. In 1955 he suffered a serious car accident that physically impaired his left hand. Then a dispute with Fred Arain ensued and Tati broke away from KD Films to create his own production company, Spectra Films, in 1956. Mon Oncle, Tati's next film, 1958's Mon Oncle, was his first film to be released in color. The plot centers on Mr. Hulot's comedic, quixotic and childlike struggle with post-war France's obsession with modernity and American-style consumerism, entwined with the relationship he has with his 9-year-old nephew Gar copyright Rad. Mon Oncle quickly became an international success, and won that year's Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, a special prize at Cannes, as well as the New York Film Critics Award. In Place de la Pelouse stands a bronze statue of Tati as Monsieur Hulot talking to a boy, in a pose echoing the movie's poster designed by Pierre Etix. On receiving his Oscar, Tati was offered any treat that the Academy could bestow on him. To their surprise, Tati simply requested the opportunity to visit Stan Laurel, Mack Sennett and Buster Keaton at their nursing homes. Keaton reportedly said that Tati's work with sound had carried on the true tradition of silent cinema. As guest artistic director at AFI Fest 2010, David Lynch selected Tati's Mon Oncle alongside Hour of the Wolf, Lolita, Rear Window and Sunset Boulevard to be screened in his sidebar program, explaining that, "I picked these particular films because they are the ones that have inspired me most. I think each is a masterpiece." Of Tati, Lynch would add in a conversation with Jonathan Rosenbaum, "You know, I feel like in a way he's a kindred soul. That guy's so creative, it's unbelievable. I think he's one of the all-time greats." Playtime, considered by many his masterpiece, Playtime, shot in 70mm, was to be the most ambitious yet risky and expensive work of Tati's career. After the success of The Mon Oncle in 1958, Jacques Tati had become fed up with Monsieur Hulot, his signature comic creation. With international renown came a growing dissatisfaction with straightforward scenarios centered around one lovable, recognizable figure. So he slowly inched his way toward a new kind of film, a supremely democratic film that would be about a euro or everybody a euro. It took 9 years to make, and he had to borrow heavily from his own resources to complete the picture. At the time of its making, Playtime was the most expensive film in French history. Playtime is the big leap, the big screen. I'm putting myself on the line. Either it comes off or it doesn't. There's no safety net. On the outskirts of Paris, Tati famously built an entire glass and steel mini-city for the film, which took years to build and left him mired in debt. In the film, Hulot and a group of American tourists lose themselves in the futuristic glass and steel of commercially globalized modern Parisian suburbs, where only human nature and a few reflective views of the old city of Paris, itself, still emerge to breathe life into the sterile new metropolis. Playtime had even less of a plot than his earlier films, and Tati endeavored to make his characters, including Hulot, almost incidental to his portrayal of a modernist and robotic Paris. Playtime was originally 155 minutes in length, but Tati soon released an edited version of 126 minutes, and this is the version that became a general theatre release in 1967. Later versions appeared in 35mm format. In 1979, a copy of the film was revised again to 108 minutes, and this re-edited version was released on VHS video in 1984. Though Playtime was a critical success, it was a massive and expensive commercial failure, eventually resulting in Tati's bankruptcy. Tati had approached everybody from Darryl F. Zanuck to the Prime Minister Georges Pompidou in a bid to get the movie completed. His personal overdrafts began to mount, and long before Playtime was finished, Bellows notes, Tati was in substantial debt to the least forgiving of all creditors, the collectors of taxes. When he failed to pay off his loans, his films were impounded by the banks. Tati was forced to sell the family house of Saint-Germain shortly after the death of his mother, Claire Van Hoof, and move back into Paris. Spectra Films was then placed into administration, concluding in the liquidation of the company in 1974, with an auction of all movie rights held by the company for little more than 120,000 francs. In August 2012, the British Film Institute polled 846 critics, programmers, academics and distributors to find the top 50 greatest films of all time, and Playtime was voted 42nd in the list in the corresponding OE Directors Poll Euro by the BFI. Playtime was awarded the accolade of being seen as the 37th greatest film of all time by his fellow directors. Steven Spielberg has said he was paying a very slight homage to Playtime in his 2004 film The Terminal, adding, "I thought of two directors when I made Terminal. I thought this was a tribute to Frank Capra and his honest sentiment, and it was a tribute to Jacques Tati and the way he allowed his scenes to go on and on and on." The character he played in Mr. Hulot's Holiday and Mon Oncle was all about resourcefulness and using what's around him to make us laugh. While on the set of Playtime, Tati made a short film about his comedic and cinematic technique, Cowards du Seuil, in which Tati gives a lesson in the art of comedy to a class of would-be actors. In 1969, with reduced ambition, Jacques Tati created a new production company, CEPEC, to oversee his opportunities in movie and TV production. In 1971 Tati OE suffered the indignity of having to make an advert for Lloyds Bank in England in which he depicted the Bank of the Future as being dehumanized with money dispensed from a computerized counter. OE The message of the advert was that however modern Lloyds are, technology isn't a unregistered trademark T everything and our unregistered trademark LL always be able to speak to a friendly member of staff or understanding manager in their branches In 1972 trademarked as Cash Point, Lloyds introduced the first modern ATMs, the IBM 2984 into UK high street banks. They had similar functions as today's machines. Pecq, the Dutch-funded Pecq, although originally designed to be a TV movie, received a theatre release in 1971 and placed Monsieur Hulot back at the centre of the action. It was the last Hulot film, and followed the vein of earlier works that lampoon modern society. In the film, Hulot is a bumbling automobile inventor travelling to an exhibition in a gadget-filled recreational vehicle. Despite its modest budget, Pecq was still very much a Tati film, carefully staged and choreographed in its scenes and effects. Parade in final years, Tati's last completed film, Parade, a film produced for Swedish television in 1973, is more or less a filmed circus performance featuring Tati's mime acts and other performers. In 1977, he received an honorary car copyright czar from the French Film Institute for his lifetime contribution to cinema. In 1978, Tati began filming a short documentary on Corsican soccer team SC Bastia playing the UEFA Cup final, Forza Bastia, which he did not complete. His younger daughter, Sophie Tatischeff, later edited the remaining footage, which was released in 2002 after her own death from lung cancer in 2001. Weakened by serious health problems, Tati died on November 4, 1982, of a pulmonary embolism, leaving a final scenario called Confusion that he had completed with Jacques Lagrange. In Paris Match, Philippe Labro reported the death of Jacques Tati under the heading, Adieu Monsieur Hulot. On Le Pleur Mort, il aurait fallu l'oeil de vivante. Lost Scripts, Confusion. Before his death Tati had plans for at least one more film. Confusion, a planned collaboration with pop duo Sparks, was a story about a futuristic city where activity is centered around television, communication, advertising, and modern society's infatuation with visual imagery. In the original script an aging Mr. Hulot was slated to be accidentally killed on air. Ron Moll and Russell Moll would have played two American TV studio employees brought to a rural French TV company to help them out with some American technical expertise and input into how TV is really done. While the script still exists, Confusion was never filmed. What would have been its title track, Confusion, appears on Sparks' 1976 Big Beat album with the internal sleeve of its 2006 remastered CD featuring a letter announcing the pending collaboration, as well as a photo of the Moll brothers in conversation with Tati. Film Tati No. 4, The Illusionist, catalogued in the CNC archives under the impersonal moniker Film Tati No. 4 unregistered trademark, written in the late 1950s, the treatment was to have been the follow-up to Tasha unregistered trademark's internationally successful Mon Oncle. It tells the bittersweet tale of a modestly talented magician referred to only as the illusionist who, during a tour of decaying music halls in Eastern Europe, protectively takes an impoverished young woman under his wing. The semi-autobiographical script that Tati wrote in 1956 was released internationally as an animated film The Illusionist and directed by Sylvain Chomet, known for The Triplets of Belleville. The main character is an animated caricature of Tati himself. Controversy dogged the release of The Illusionist with The Guardian reporting. In 2000, the screenplay was handed over to Chomet by Tati's daughter, Sophie, 2 years before her death. Now, however, the family of Tati's illegitimate and estranged eldest child, Helga Marie Janiel, who lives in the northeast of England, are calling for the French director to give her credit as the true inspiration for the film. The script of L'Illusionist, they say, was Tati's response to the shame of having abandoned his first child, Yule, and it remains the only public recognition of her existence. They accused Chomet of attempting to airbrush out their painful family legacy again. Tati's former colleagues at the Lido de Paris were appalled at his caddish behavior and shunned him. As a result, he moved first to Berlin, then to the village of Saint-Czar. Copyright Varis Surinder, which later inspired his hugely successful film, Jeux de Fatigue. Chomet has a different opinion about the film's origins, although acknowledging that he never got to meet Sophie, or even speak to her about the script. Chomet said, "I think Tati wrote the script for Sophie Tatischeff. I think he felt guilty that he spent too long away from his daughter when he was working." Pecq Pictures appears to contradict Chomet's view with its own summary. The film is based on an unproduced script that the French mime, director and actor Jacques Tati had written in 1956 as a personal letter to his estranged eldest daughter, Helga Marie Janiol, in collaboration with long-term writing partner Henri Marquet between Mon Oncle and Playtime. The main character is an animated version of Tati animated by Laurent Kircher. The plot revolves around a struggling illusionist who visits an isolated community and meets a young lady who is convinced that he is a real magician. The film is set in Scotland in the late 1950s. It's not a romance, it's more the relationship between a dad and a daughter. Filmography: Director, Guy Dimanche, Les Permilcol des Facteurs, Jeux de Fatigue, Les Vacances de Monsieur Hulot, Mon Oncle, Playtime, Pecq, Parade, Ford Sebastia, Actor, Oscar, Champion de Tennis, On Demand Une Brute, Guy Dimanche, Soin un Gauche, Retour à la Terre, Sylvie et la Fantamie, Le Diable au Corps, Les Permilcol des Facteurs, Jeux de Fatigue, Les Vacances de M. Hulot, Mon Oncle, Cours du Soy, Playtime, Pecq, Obras aux Obras, Parade, Writer, The Illusionist, Awards, Cannes Festival 1958, Grand Prix for Mon Oncle, Academy Awards 1958, Best Foreign Language Film for Mon Oncle, 6th Moscow International Film Festival, Silver Prize for Playtime. References. External links: Jacques Tati at the Internet Movie Database, Tati Bibliography via UC Berkeley, the official Jacques Tati website, Jacques Tati profile at filmstfrance.com, Confusion Jacques Tati's unfinished film, Museum of Modern Art retrospective in the Village Voice, Jacques Tati's ode to his illegitimate daughter, The Telegraph, June 16, 2010.